The padlock snapped shut with a sharp metallic click as Karen Peton, decked out in her bright orange HOA vest, stood blocking the driveway like a human barricade. Arms crossed, eyes blazing, she shrieked that I wasn't allowed to leave without her written permission. I reached for the chains wrapped around my moving truck and her mailbox post. She shoved me hard enough that I stumbled back into the gravel, keys flying from my hand. "These belong to the community now," she hissed, snatching them up. That was when the first landscaping rocks started flying. Small stones pinging off the truck windows, cracks spiderwebbing across the glass while the driver ducked inside the cab yelling that this was insane. I shouted back that I was calling the police. She screamed louder, "You're stealing HOA property." What she didn't know, what nobody in Meadowbrook Estates knew, was that my son Marcus is a special agent with the FBI Financial Crimes Division. And everything she had just done, that was already stacking up to half a dozen federal felonies. My name is Dalton Reed. I'm 58, a contractor by trade, and for the last 12 years this upscale suburban neighborhood felt like home. Until it didn't. 2 years ago, cancer took my wife, Sarah. After that, the house turned into a museum of grief. Her coffee mug still on the counter, her reading glasses on the nightstand, every corner smelling faintly of her lavender hand cream. I couldn't breathe here anymore. So I found a quiet cabin on Lake Hartwell, Sarah's favorite fishing spot where we used to promise each other we'd retire someday. Someday came without her, but the cabin was still waiting. The paperwork was perfect. 30 days notice, 0 outstanding fees. Everything submitted exactly as the bylaws required. Karen rejected it at the board meeting with a sharp smile. Insufficient community impact assessment, she declared. When I asked what that even meant, she said, I needed a certified HOA transition consultant. Cost, $2,500. The consultant, her sister Brenda. I called it extortion. She called it procedure, tapping her acrylic nails on the clipboard like a metronome, counting down my punishment. The retaliation came fast. Orange cones appeared in my driveway overnight. Unauthorized relocation zone signs sprouted like weeds. Certified letters went to the cabin seller claiming I was fleeing debts. Complete lies that nearly killed the deal. Then the Facebook posts. Dalton Reed is abandoning his responsibilities. What kind of man runs from commitments? 47 angry reactions. The shame burned worse than the grief. Marcus called that night. Dad, this sounds like harassment. I laughed it off. Neighborhood politics, not the mafia. He said sometimes there's no difference. What I didn't know then was that Sarah had been quietly investigating Karen for months before her diagnosis. Hidden USB drives, bank records, years of financial irregularities. My wife died protecting the neighborhood from predator, and I was about to finish what she started. Moving day arrived despite the sabotage. Professional movers, fully licensed, 7 a.m. sharp. Karen stormed out in a bathrobe and curlers, screaming about illegal commercial vehicles. When the driver explained we were in visitor parking, she demanded to inspect every box for community property, HOA documents, architectural plans, anything she could claim belonged to the association. The desperation in her eyes should have told me she was hiding something huge. Then she vanished inside her house and came back with chains, padlock, and 3 nervous neighbors trailing her like reluctant bodyguards. She chained the truck to her mailbox post and announced I was in violation of Section 47B, unauthorized asset removal. She pointed to my own mailbox. Those numbers belong to the community. She even pulled out plastic zip-tie handcuffs still in the Amazon packaging. I'm making a citizen's arrest for theft of community assets. I started recording on my phone. The red light made her eye twitch. The driver was filming too, grinning as he told her he had dashcam audio of her earlier offering him $200 to accidentally damage my stuff because I was supposedly a deadbeat skipping town. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a landed fish. Neighbors started whispering the truth. Tom admitted she threatened him with fence-height fines if he didn't back her. Mrs. Patterson said she'd report her elderly dog for noise. Mike, the young dad, finally spoke up. Karen, this is wrong. You can't force us to lie. She lunged for my house keys, claiming they held evidence of community plans. I twisted away. You're assaulting me on camera. She screamed she was protecting community assets. I called 911. She called 911 at the same time, shrieking about theft and assault. While we waited, sweet Mrs. Samantha shuffled over, the lady who brought me soup after Sarah died, and whispered that Karen had tried to seize her garden shed last month, demanding she sign ownership over with fake papers and daily fines. She wasn't just power-hungry. She was systematically stealing property from homeowners using phony HOA authority. Police arrived. Karen switched to victim mode, crocodile tears flowing. I handed over my deed, paid off mortgage, taxes current. The officers explained HOA bylaws don't override legal property ownership. You can't steal someone's mailbox. They examined her zip-tie handcuffs with amusement and left her with stern warnings about false reports. You'd think that would end it. It didn't. That night at 2 a.m., my doorbell rang nonstop. Karen stood on the porch in a cheap security guard costume, flashlight and clipboard in hand. Emergency HOA inspection. Reports of unauthorized renovations. I blocked the doorway. She tried to push past, reeking of stale wine and vanilla perfume. I slammed the door and called the police again. By morning, she had filed an emergency complaint with the city inspector, claiming unpermitted structural changes. The inspector walked the property, found nothing, called the complaint frivolous. Karen marched across the street waving papers, yelling that I had stolen $5,000 in community assets, itemized down to my doormat and garden hose, and somehow my entire driveway valued at $4,880. The moving company called in a panic. Karen sent a cease and desist from Peton Legal Services, a fake law firm she created in Microsoft Word, threatening to sue them for conspiracy to commit theft. They wanted out. That evening, I discovered she'd somehow gotten spare keys, changed my locks, and taped a note to the door. Property secured pending HOA investigation. I was locked down in my own house. The locksmith let me in for $80. Inside, drawers were searched, medicine cabinet open. But she left something behind. A manila envelope stuffed with bank statements showing HOA funds funneled to Community Improvement Solutions, LLC, the shell company that employed her sister Brenda. Sarah always said criminals hang themselves with their own rope. Karen had just handed me the noose. I photographed everything. The next morning, a fake lien notice appeared on my door claiming $15,000 in back fees, including weekly charges for community participation deficiency, because I missed meetings while caring for my dying wife. Then Child Protective Services called about an anonymous tip questioning Marcus's mental stability and his FBI clearance. My real estate agent called. Someone was telling the cabin seller I was under federal investigation for fraud. Karen was torching every part of my life. Marcus called from D.C., voice tight. Internal Affairs had grilled him for 2 hours over allegations he was using federal resources for a personal vendetta. She'd somehow monitored his calls, travel, even internet searches about HOA law. This isn't harassment anymore, he said. It's interference with federal law enforcement. That evening, a process server showed up with foreclosure papers, forged federal documents complete with fake court seals and judge signatures. I told him he'd just delivered fraudulent legal papers. He ran to his car after admitting Karen paid him $50. Marcus had been building the case quietly. Karen had similar complaints in 3 other states. She was a serial HOA scammer who moved when people caught on. The bank records I found tied to a Delaware shell company linked to her ex-husband, currently in prison for real estate fraud. Sarah hadn't just found irregularities. She'd uncovered a multi-state criminal enterprise. We went through Sarah's locked drawer in her office. The key was hidden under her wedding ring in the jewelry box. Inside were years of files, fraudulent HOA elections, fake invoices, $127,000 stolen through non-existent maintenance contracts, tree removals, pool builds that never happened. Handwritten notes showed Karen had threatened to interfere with Sarah's cancer treatment if she didn't stop asking questions. Sarah filed a complaint with the state attorney general 3 months before she died. Mrs. Samantha, retired IRS auditor, brought spreadsheets showing over $200,000 in discrepancies. Other neighbors came forward with stories of cash paid, fake fines. Marcus coordinated with the FBI field office. We installed cameras. Karen's panic grew, planting what looked like drugs in my kitchen, baking soda, field tested, slashing moving truck tires, calling Marcus's supervisor claiming bribery, even phoning the FBI corruption hotline, and confessing on a recorded line to stalking federal agents and monitoring communications. Every move she made added charges: mail fraud, wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, interfering with federal officers, filing false reports. She tried fake restraining orders, impersonating U.S. Marshals, even a live press conference where she waved Sarah's evidence files and confessed to systematic theft on camera while accusing us. The emergency HOA meeting was packed. 89 homeowners, news crews outside. Karen stood at the podium in her best suit, projecting lies about my embezzlement. Janet Morrison stood up. The board had voted her out. Mrs. Samantha played a recording of Karen offering her $5,000 to stay silent. Marcus rose, badge visible. Mrs. Peton, you're under federal investigation for mail fraud, wire fraud, money laundering, and interstate racketeering. She bolted for the exit. FBI agents were waiting. Handcuffs clicked. The room erupted in applause as she screamed it was a setup. Agent Williams announced 23 federal charges, $347,000 stolen, assets seized for restitution. 3 months later, I sat on the cabin porch at Lake Hartwell, Sarah's favorite coffee in hand, watching sunrise turn the water gold. Karen got 8 years plus 5 supervised release. Restitution checks arrived, every penny returned. Her sister took probation. The community built the promised pool with seized funds. Mrs. Samantha became treasurer. Texas passed Sarah's law for mandatory HOA audits. The story sparked reforms in 12 states. Marcus's case became FBI training material. I raised a mug to the stars. We did it, sweetheart. Your fight changed everything. What's your worst HOA nightmare? Drop it below. You might be sitting on the next story that protects thousands. Subscribe. We're just getting started exposing corrupt authority. Justice always finds a way when good people refuse to stay silent.